Good morning. This is Rashad Mitchell coming to you live from my YouTube channel as I continue on my part series, The Week That Was College Football History and Review, the 1963 college football season. I'll be looking at the overview of the 1963 college football season, then get into week one of the college football season, including the game that was played before the whole full slate of games that was taking place on September the 21st. Because it was a game that was played on September 14th, 1963. So let's look at 1963 college football season, where it was the year of significant change. Staubach and Buckets and Scholarly Panthers. The year 1963 was one in which remarkable change took root, not only in college football but in the lives of all Americans. On Friday afternoon, November 22nd, President John F. Kennedy was gunned down in a motorcade by a single shooter or multiple assassins in front of the Texas School Book Depository in Dallas. The violent death of the youngest president in U.S. history seemed to rob the last veneer of innocence from American society. Turbulent times were coming. Kennedy was a Harvard man, and the Crimson's 80th meeting with Yale, scheduled for the next day, was one of the first public events to be postponed after the assassination. Nearly all games on November 23rd were switched to the following week. Some were canceled. A handful of college games were played. The Saturday after Friday's assassination, in front of decidedly subdued crowds, and the NFL was robustly criticized for playing its full Saturday schedule. The rationale presented was that Kennedy would have wanted us to play. But highly admired NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle later admitted that it was the worst mistake he ever made. A week later, a slate of rescheduled college games provided a much-needed respite from a week of national grief. Before his death, Kennedy sent military advisors, including 1958 Heisman Trophy winner Pete Dawkins of West Point, to the nation of Vietnam, site of a Southeast Asian civil skirmish that would soon escalate into perhaps the most politically divisive war in American history. It was a war that would soon prompt continuous confrontation by America's youth against authority. Also in 1963, a gifted Oklahoma halfback named Joe Don Looney punched an assistant coach and was suspended by head coach Bell Wilkinson. Vietnam would prompt a reassessment of attitudes about authority. The Looney incident would be symptomatic of a new rebellious order of athlete. It was interesting that 1963 would paradoxically offer the last great service academy football team until a mild renaissance for Army, Navy, and Air Force during a more conservative 1980s regime of President Ronald Reagan, whose politics may or may not have affected the academies. Navy, led by perhaps the greatest ever quarterback and Heisman Trophy winner Roger Staubach, lost only by 4 points to charged up SMU and slipped by equally fired up Army in a classic contest decided in the last seconds. The midshipmen of coach Wayne Harding finished the regular season ranked second in the AP poll, except a Cotton Bowl showdown with top-ranked Texas. It was the second such number one versus number two bowl matchup within a year. The first coming the previous January 1st when Southern California, Wisconsin, met in the Rose Bowl. The Arroyo's Texas Longhorns used a stout defense, led by Outland Trophy winning tackle Scott Appleton, to easily outclass Navy 28-6 and submit the national title that already had been voted unsung Texas quarterback Duke Carlisle, known mostly for his defensive ability, and surprisingly outplayed and outpassed the heralded Staubach on offense. But Alabama finished second in the SEC and received a Sugar Bowl bid for Challenge Conference champion Mississippi. Crimson Tide quarterback Joe Namath, who would soon become an NFL torchbearer of the next 60 generation of rebellious athlete, who was caught breaking training rules and was suspended for the Sugar Bowl by no-nonsense coach Bear Bryant, suddenly becoming a decided underdog. Alabama rose to the occasion despite the Rebels, behind a great defensive effort and the fine offensive leadership of alternate quarterback Steve Sloan. Ole Miss coach Johnny Vaught proved with the decision in late November that most coaches still wanted regional championships and weren't ready to play for national title marbles, especially if the opportunity was slim. Vault's undefeated number 3 Rebels faced the fourth down at Mississippi State's 3-yard line with a touchdown to have placed them in possible shape to slip past Texas for the national championship. Vault opted for a tying field goal. We're conference champions and still at that point undefeated before losing the Sugar Bowl. If we had gambled and lost, we would not have been conference champions, he stated flatly. Present among the surprise teams were Illinois and Pittsburgh. The Illini beat Washington in the Rose Bowl with a squad built around a tremendous defense led by perhaps the greatest ever linebacker, Dick Butkus, and safety George Donnelly. Illinois forced a then unheard of 41 turnovers in 10 games. Two fine offensive newcomers like fullback Jim Grabowski and quarterback Fred Costardo helped move the pigskin for the Fighting Illini. Illinois had dragged through some odd seasons up to this point in the 1960s. In 1960, Illinois was a popular preseason favorite for the Big Ten title, but had disappointed with a fifth-place tie with 3 other teams and a dull overall mark of 5-4. The Illini went 0-9 in 1961, but closed with 2 impressive wins in 1962. So amazingly, the UPI coaches' final poll crazily voted the 2-7 Illinois Fighting Illini to number 19 of the nation in 1962 because one coach placed Illinois number 10 on his ballot. So could it have been Illinois' own coach Pete Elliott successfully trying to save his job because he suspected something special coming in 1963? Many suspected Elliott as the flipped-out voter, but no proof ever was offered of a cagey but possibly unethical vote. Illinois clearly was a team that was defying logic in the 1960s. The Illini surprised the experts with a Rose Bowl trip and victory after the 1963 season. Now, perhaps the most important 1960s contribution to Big Sky history by Illinois was the development of Dick Butkus. It is difficult to argue that Dick Butkus wasn't the greatest linebacker in football history. One could make the same argument about Staubach's place in the quarterbacking pantheon, since Staubach and Butkus played the most dominant position on each of football's opposed offensive and defensive units, and that 1963 was the best college season for each player. It was remarkable in retrospect for college fans to have enjoyed their brilliance in the autumn of 1963. Pittsburgh went uninvited to any bowl game, mostly because of the delay caused by the Kennedy assassination of its season-closing game against Penn State. Still, Pitt presented a special team and plowed through its usual tough schedule. The nation's 17th toughest slate, the 579 winning percentage, suffering only a 24-12 loss to number 2 Navy. The Panthers displayed a more adventurous offense at the unusual insistence of school chancellor Edwin H. Litchfield, who persuaded coach Jim Michelson to modify his option run attack. He's playing for the sake of winning alone and not for the pleasure of the fans. Don't get me wrong, I consider John as a valuable real estate. He just needs redevelopment, said Litchfield. Michelson countered that he wasn't in the entertainment business and must have grumbled under his breath about meddlesome college presidents. But how wrong could Michelson have been in this year of significant change? Football was becoming more of an entertainment vehicle with each passing season in the 1960s, and college presidents would become considerably more involved in football matters. Still, imagine a veteran coach in today's environment accepting Litchfield's very frank assessment without at least firing back with both barrels. Litchfield need not have worried about the football-playing Panthers' level of academic achievement. They proved to be true scholar athletes as 33 entered postgraduate study programs. The team produced 30 doctors, dentists, educators, or lawyers, including halfback Paul Martha, who, as San Francisco's attorney in 1982, was credited with a major role in negotiating an end to that season's NFL players' strike. Now, at the milestones of the 1963 season of college football, you had substitution rules that were further liberalized to permit unlimited substitution when game clock became stopped. So except fourth down and on first down at the exchange of the ball, in those instances, teams were allowed to substitute 2 players. Also, T formation quarterbacks became legally eligible pass receivers. Independent Louisville joined the Missouri Valley Conference. Also in June, Florida A&M and Bob Hayes. In June, Florida A&M and Bob Hayes set a world record in 100-yard dash at the time of 9.1 seconds. Bob Hayes would win 100-meter dash gold medal at the 1964 Olympic Games and played successfully with the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL. The longest winning streaks entering the 1963 season of college football, we had a tie between Dartmouth and Southern California with 11-game winning streaks, and Mississippi had a 10-game winning streak. Coaching changes that took place for 1963 of college football season: Colorado, Eddie and Crowder; Notre Dame, Hugh DeVore interim; Oklahoma State, Phil Pechin; Stanford, John Ralston; Tennessee, Jim McDonald; Texas Western, Warren Harper; Vanderbilt, Jack Green; and Yale, John Hunt. Now let's look at the preseason AP poll. Preseason AP poll, this is the top 10 for 1963. Southern California was preseason number 1. Number 2 was Mississippi. Number 3 was Alabama. Number 4 was Oklahoma. Number 5 was Texas. Number 6 was Northwestern. Number 7 was Wisconsin. Number 8 was Arkansas. Number 9 was Navy. And for the 10th spot, there was a tie between Ohio State and Washington. So let's get into the season of college football 1963. We're going to start with a lone game. Season started on September 14th, 1963, where Georgia Tech shut out Florida by a score of 9-0. Georgia Tech won its 37th home opener in a row as rain pelted down. Also down was Florida quarterback Tom Shannon, who was thrown for 69 yards and losses by pass rushing Georgia Tech defensive ends such as Ted Davis and Billy Martin. Gators finished with minus 5-yard net rushing. Those sacks combined with 2 lost fumbles and 75 yards in penalties had Gators paddling deep in own territory most of the day. Versatile Yellow Jackets quarterback kicker Billy Lothridge booted field goal second quarter after failed Gators gambled on 4th down in own territory, gave possession to Georgia Tech. Florida fullback Larry Dupree dropped fumble at own 9-yard line in the 3rd quarter, and Georgia Tech halfback Joe Auer soon banged off left tackle for a 2-yard touchdown. Now let's get into the full slate of games that were played during the week that was week 1, September 21st, 1963. But there was a game that came on before September 21st, 1963 for week 1, and that was on a Friday. There was 2 games that was played on a Friday. We're going to start with on September 20th, 1963, where Florida State played Miami. The Florida State shut out Miami 24-0. Trumpeted as perhaps Miami Hurricanes' greatest team, with quarterback George Myra back for his senior season and coach Andy Gustafson bowing out at Coral Gables after 16 years, the Hurricanes suddenly were blank in newly revamped Orange Bowl Stadium. Tall Florida State quarterback Steve Tinsey, who threw 2 touchdown passes on 149 yards passing, 13 of 20 passing, outgunned George Myra Jr. George Myra, the senior quarterback, who was 18 of 39 for 182 yards and 2 interceptions, who was under heavy pass rush pressure all night and was unable to guide the Canes inside the FSU 30-yard line until the last minute of the 3rd quarter. The Florida State wide receiver Fred Biletnikoff had 4 catches for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns, was brilliant, catching 23 17-yard touchdown passes from Tennessee in the first half. And when Miami reached FSU at the 8-yard line in 4th quarter, defensive back Biletnikoff made an interception, dodged tackle of halfback Russ Smith, and raced 99 yards to touchdown that sent Governor Ferris Bryant and many other fans home early. On that same Friday of September 20th, 1963, Pittsburgh shut out UCLA 20-0. Pittsburgh shut out UCLA 20-0. As Panthers perceived as ponderous on offense, demonstrated dashing new attack that gained 429 yards of offense. Pittsburgh fullback Rick Leeson scored 14 points on touchdown, 2 field goals, and 2 conversion kicks, while quarterback Fred Mazarek passed 8 of 11, 106 yards, and rushed for 43 yards. UCLA. Highlight came in the 1st quarter when sophomore defensive tackle Steve Butler picked off Mazarek pass at 3-yard line, as on 3-yard line, and steamed 86 yards to Pitt 11-yard line, but Bruins lost ball on downs to practical Pittsburgh defense. Next, Pittsburgh and Syracuse beat Boston College 32-27. to 21. Syracuse beat Boston College 32 to 21. Now it was orange if by land and Eagles if by air, as Eastern rivals chose different methods of attacking each other. Syracuse scored on its first series, ended up gaining 334 yards rushing and building a 26-7 lead. Quarterback Wally Maul ran for a pair of touchdowns and added icing on the cake at end with 6-yard touchdown pass, 2 left flat for halfback Charlie Brown. Boston College benefited from a pair of full fumbles and used passing of quarterback Jack Concannon, especially to end Jim Whalen, to get back in the game with 2 fourth-quarter touchdown passes by Concannon. Next, number 9 Navy blew out West Virginia 51-7. Record West Virginia crowd believed it might watch Mountaineers quarterback Jerry Yost outpass Navy quarterback Roger Staubach. Instead, Yost failed to generate any points until game's dying moments when he passed 7 yards to back up in Fred Hoff. Navy had owned ball nearly all of the fourth quarter, but only guard kicker Fred Marlins for 25-yard field goal to show for it. Enjoying plenty of time to throw, Staubach picked apart West Virginia in the second quarter. His touchdown pass to wingback Skip Orr was followed by 2 short touchdown dives by halfback Kip Pascaswich. Midshipman Orr caught 7 passes for 89 yards and a touchdown as defensive back added 52 yards interception touchdown return in the third quarter that lifted score to 31-0. Before exiting for bench in third quarter, Staubach pitched 17 of 22 for 171 yards as Navy gained 417 yards. West Virginia was limited to 13 yards rushing, but passed 12 of 21 for 104 yards, touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Next, North Carolina State beat Maryland 36-14. Number 3, Alabama beat Georgia 32-7. Fired up, Georgia gave Alabama plenty of pressure in early going as center linebacker Ken Davis made fumble recovery of first of quarterback Joe Namath's 2 bobbles at Crimson Tide's 26-yard line on opening series. Halfback Fred Barber smacked over from 3-yard line for a 7-0 lead. From that point on, though, Alabama's fabulous defense throttled Bulldogs for the 4th straight season. Georgia gained only 138 yards route offense, including miserable 34 yards rushing on 36 carries. Joe Namath tied it at 7-7 in the first quarter when N. Charles Stevens caught, passed, and twisted away from several tacklers to complete a 47-yard touchdown. The Tide led only 10-7 at halftime, but fullback Mike Fracchia, who had 42 yards rushing on 13 carries, flexing his banged-up knee, rambled for 2 touchdowns. Bulldogs quarterbacks Larry Rakeshaw and Preston Riddle Huber combined for 10 for 23, 104 yards interception in there. But Riddle Huber was smacked for safety in the 4th quarter. Georgia defensive back Brigham Woodward made 13 tackles and made a fumble recovery. Next, you had Kentucky beating Virginia Tech by a score of 33-14. Next, you had number 2 Mississippi playing against Memphis State, where this matchup ended in a scoreless tie, 0-0. Only has one team, Memphis State, gained so much from tie result, while another, Ole Miss, lost so much. Tigers defensive tackle John Fred Robilio made 20-plus tackles and led the goal line stands that repelled Rebels twice inside the Memphis 2-yard line. Pair of top-ranked defense of 1962, led by Mississippi, 142.2 yards per game average, only 5 yards better than Tigers, held each other's rush offense to 57 yards for Memphis and only 87 yards for the Rebels. Next, top-ranked, number 1 ranked Southern California, shut out Colorado 14-0. Despite heavy downpours in Boulder, Colorado officials failed to cover the field beforehand, so the speedy top-ranked Trojans sloshed aimlessly through mud, incurring 170 yards in penalties. These miscues wiped out quarterback Pete Beathard's 21-yard touchdown run and his 63-yard completion to end Hal Betso. Beathard scored both Troy's touchdowns on identical rollouts, but had off day, passing for 6 of 19 for 71 yards and 2 interceptions. Now, Beathard also was sacked twice by Buffalo defense, led by defensive lineman Marty Harshbarger, linebacker Larry Ferrero, defensive backs Bill Simons, Noble Milton, and Bill Harris. While USC offense was subpar, Troy's defense, led by highly active linebacker Damon Bain, throttled Colorado's run game Opening under new coach Eddie Crowder's Butterfinger Bison's quarterback tried only single pass all afternoon as offense lost 6 fumbles and never got inside Troy 45-yard line. Next, Wichita State beat Arizona State 33-13. Now Arizona lost its first collegiate opener since 1942, even though Sun Devils jumped to a 13-0 lead in the first quarter. Sun Devils halfback Tony Lerrick ran 9-8 and 19 yards on early 71-yard touchdown drive, but soon was banished with weak Sockers halfback Miller Farr and sideline fracas. Margin was boosted to 13-0 when ASU halfback Charlie Taylor got his first punt coverer and raced 54 yards to punt return for a touchdown. Coming off 1962 as the nation's most prolific offense, the Sun Devils fizzled in air as quarterback John Jacobs passed 5 of 17, 83 yards, and 3 interceptions. Wichita quarterback Henry Chiptool. Wichita quarterback Henry Chiptool and 37-yard. He had 167 yards passing for 11-22 and 37 yards rushing. Came off bench to score on 3-yard run and pitched 72 yards touchdown pass to halfback Ray Patterson to tie the game at 13-13. So halfback Pete Mills vaulted Shoggers into 19-13 lead with 5-yard sweep at end of 47-yard drive in third quarter. Wichita end defensive end Larry Beckish, whose block had sprung Patterson's long touchdown gallop, recovered fumble in the fourth quarter to launch a 53-yard march to Patterson's 12-yard touchdown run early in the fourth quarter. Next, Penn State beat Oregon 17-7. And finally, Air Force upset number 10 Washington by a score of 10-7. Air Force scored on kicker Bart Holliday's 25-yard field goal in first quarter, but moments later, 145-pound Washington halfback Steve Bromell, former AFA cadet, picked up quarter blockers and surged to 91-yard kickoff touchdown return. It was the first time Bramwell had touched ball in his varsity career. Huskies defense led by tackling and punting of linebacker punter Rick Redmond dominated most of the game, so Washington felt it had reasonably safe 7-3 lead as it faced fourth down at Falcons' 9-yard line with only 3:15 to play. So expecting field goal try, Air Force coach Ben Martin made a strategic move by inserting tall and lanky end defensive end Jim Greth in hopes of Greth's blocking Washington field goal attempt as he had done early in the fourth quarter. Instead, Huskies tried the first down and were stopped. So thanks to substitution rule, sophomore Greth, completely untested on offense, was stuck unexpectedly in Air Force's lineup. So all we can do was cheer him along, said Martin as Greth miraculously caught 5 of quarterback Terry Isaacson's 7 straight completions to Husky's 7-yard line. So Isaacson's rolled right and cut back to leap and touchdown run with 1:34 to go. Air Force defensive end Jim Huster, defensive star all day, soon made clinching interception. So that was an upset. Number 10, Washington lost to Air Force 10-7. Now let's look at the AP poll as of September 23rd. Number 1 was Southern California. Number 2 was Alabama. Number 3 was Oklahoma. Number 4 was Texas. Number 5 was Navy. Number 6 was Wisconsin. Number 7 was Northwestern. Number 8 was Arkansas. Number 9 was Georgia Tech. And number 10 was Pittsburgh. So that concludes the look at week that was week 1 of the college football season. Week 1 of the college football season. I talked about September 14th, 1963. Talked about that. But then I got into a slew of games, a slate of games that was played on during week 1 of the college football season, September 21st, 1963, including the games. 2 games that were played on September 20th, 1963, Florida State, Miami, Pittsburgh, and UCLA. And the overview of the 1963 college football season. So that concludes a look at the week that was college football history review. You can subscribe, like, and comment on the channel. Do whatever you can support. This is Rashad Mitchell coming to you live from my YouTube channel. Until then, I'll do a video of this magnitude tomorrow. I'll look at week 2 of the college football season of 1963, week 2. Until then, talk to you tomorrow.